Billy Lee, I suppose, Billy, we've seen the GAA's roadmap with the return to play, the return to training, and with club and intercounty championship action scheduled and penciled in for down the line. I suppose, look, the main thing is that all this is predicated on the fact that we still have the coronavirus somewhat under control. But it is good to have some sort of framework to look forward to.
It has, indeed, Raphael. I suppose not too many weeks ago, I didn't think this was possible, but I suppose it's a measure of the country and do what was asked of us, and it wasn't easy for people. And but look, thankfully, we've done the best we can as a nation, and it's opened the doors for many senses, many walks of life. And I suppose, the announcement the government made last Friday, while one or two people might have thought one or two things were going to come ahead of plan, I don't think we expected the depth of how fast it was coming to open up. But I think that's great, and from our point of view, from having a roadmap for games is what we look forward to. And please God, things will continue going the right direction for the country for the obvious reasons. And if that keeps going, then it'll allow us to get back down to the hobbies we enjoyed partaking in.
I suppose, Billy, for yourselves and for the backroom staff, what's the planning process like now? I know guys have probably been tipping away doing individual programs and keeping the fitness ticking over, and of course they will be playing with their clubs before you'll get your hands on them again. But is it just a case of linking in with lads to see where they are, maybe seeing where the fitness levels are at, or is that further down the line at the moment?
I suppose if we go back in April, we kind of kept it, and we kind of started to disband towards the end of April and give the lads a rest, because, look, club will fall into county this year, county will fall into county for next year, and county for next year will fall into club for next year. So I think giving lads a break was paramount for their own well-being, and that was important. So I suppose in light of the roadmap being announced over the weekend, we looked at it and we've made contact with lads just to see where they are, because we do know that the GAA activity opens up on the 29th of June, and they'll be falling back into clubs. So, as you rightly say, the modern player kind of keeps training all the time, I suppose. Well, it's very difficult to train 52 days, 2 weeks of the year. It's good to do something for your own well-being in the times you're off. So they've done that, and in different phases. We weren't close to them when they were doing that as such, and we picked up with them to offer them support as they prepare to get back into the club scene. And it's a really important 6 weeks for players who will have inter-county careers with it, because there's so much coming down with them in the next 12 months with little or no break. So how they prep for this next 6 weeks is paramount in minimising injuries and so forth. So it's really important. And again, look, I suppose, for the dual players on our panel, they'll have two managers at club level pulling off them, and we've got to allow them that space. We're there to support them and help them if they need anything. But look, having a third master in the pot is only adding pressure to lads who are already feeling they're going to have a lot going on. So it's about offering the support to them where they feel they might need it, knowing that we're there, and not communicate with them either through directly or through their clubs, and just seeing where it's all landing. Look, the big thing for us is that when we do get back on the 14th of September, we'll have most of them back here again, and hopefully there's no one, the travel is potential, fellas may or may not go traveling if the world opens up again. And so it's really, for me, it's about helping them now for where they might feel they need help or assistance, is probably the better word. And please God, we'll get them back on the 14th of September and prepare then for the 17th of October when the first inter-county game goes.
Yeah, Billy, I suppose one part of it as well is that there's, everyone is going to have to sacrifice something, or, there's going to have to be a bit of give on all sides, because, this solution is far from perfect, but it is probably the best option that we have on the table right now at the moment, isn't it?
Well, it is. Look, and I think if we all realise that the player is the most important part of the piece, I think everyone will, and consider them in this, and they'll be stretched as it is, and they'll have their own. I mean, we mustn't forget, it's sitting in the background here, there'll be some of them frontline workers, or there might be have their own things like asthma, and they might have vulnerable family members. And we mustn't forget this and all of this, because just because we've got a roadmap to go back doesn't mean the virus is gone, and what we expect of these people. So I think communication will be paramount. And look, it's up to every player to communicate with their own managers. It isn't for us to be telling the player or the manager what to do in that space, and I don't intend doing that. But I suppose I'm around long enough to know that they'll be becoming thick and fast. Normally, when they go back to clubs around July, late June, early July, you know, they've only 2 people to consider, and that's the hurling of football managers. Whereas we are not gone away at this point in time. So it's to be prudent that we understand where different players are at. And you know, for some players, their clubs will continue into the championship into September. And again, applying common sense, when it gets to that point, we'll be back in. We'll go back training, and we'll be looking for the lads to come back in with us, and we'll be mindful that someone will be in the latter stages of the championship, and we'll just have to see what fellas' heads are at and what's going on, and deal with it at that point rather than trying to get too rigid about it now.
Billy, what have you missed most about no GAA, and what are you looking forward to most about going back? I suppose one of the things we said that we'd never complain about was, you know, out in the piss and rain of Mick Neville with your notes running and the ink going everywhere, and, you know, complaining that there's no cover and that there's nowhere to put your notebook or your laptop down. So I think, you know, everyone has something that they're going, I'll never complain about again when sport comes back. What's Billy Lee's?
I suppose, look, I've been busy with really work. It's been just manic. If football was going on, why this was going on, I wouldn't have been able to do the 2 jobs. You know, some people ask how I managed it at the best of times, but work has just been taking up all my time. I wouldn't have time for football or hurling or anything of that space. I think in the job I have, there's a responsibility to people and their families, and all my attention was gone in there, and I had to go in there. You know, the government protocols and ensuring people are safe. So all my time was taken up. I didn't have time to miss it, to be honest. And you know, you've got to be able to prioritise, you know, separate your job, your professional life from your hobby at some point in time. And I suppose that's a measure that I was able to do that, thankfully. So that, you know, I know that in my normal life that I hadn't disregarded my job when I've been busy for the previous number of years. You know, when the pressure was on, that's number one. And but I suppose the flip side to that then is that this pandemic didn't allow me to do the hobbies, and you were working on 12 hours to try and have things right. So from that perspective, it's good to be able to have the hobby going, because it can distract you from the job when you're entitled to put down the tools after the day around 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. But unfortunately, in the past 10 weeks, that's not been the case. There was late hours and long nights, but that's it. I'm no different to many other people that have a similar role as I have, and that's just the way it was. So I suppose ultimately I didn't miss it because I hadn't time to miss it.
Billy, just one other question as well, and I suppose that's the kind of up in the air nature of the National League. It is, I'd imagine it's a competition you'd like to see finished at some stage, because, you know, so much had gone into Limerick, or has gone into Limerick, getting out of that Division 4, and to put yourself in that kind of position where it's in your own hands with a couple of games to go to get out of it, considering the development of the squad, that would be a competition I'd imagine you'd love to see finished, or at some stage in the calendar, if possible.
Yeah, but sure, it's like anything else, Raphael. We'd love to see it finish if we thought we were going to get promotion out of it. You know, so look, I suppose first and foremost, things were going well. We had a blip in Antrim. We feel we had a good understanding of what the issue was there. We had a good prep week in the lead up to it. We had a challenge match, and I was happy 1 week out from the Wexford game and where we were at, and you know, the dealing with the analysis from the Antrim game. So I thought we're in a good position. But look, that's 6. By the time we get around to October, that was March. That's a new season. So it's back to the drawing board. Everyone, you know, any momentum teams had or didn't have, it's all gone out the window, and it's back to square one. So we got to rekindle and regroup and go again. Now look, you know, we've worked hard to get into this position over the last number of years and help the lads along to get to this point. And look, if we are growing and developing, we should be able to be competitive or remain in 2 matches in the league. Now, that doesn't say you're going to win them, but it's fair to say in days gone by, we weren't being competitive in games when we were playing the topper end of the league. So I think that'll be the first step. We focus on performance when we get back, and focus on doing the basics to get us create that platform to perform. And look, you never win anything about a bit of luck. You need to make your own luck, and that comes from working hard and having the right attitude. And the other things we'll focus on. And look, when Wexford turn up to us on whenever that date will be, we just hope we're in the best position to go and perform, and hopefully then that'll get us, and that'll be that game done. And if hope, please God, and then we move on to the Sligo game and we take it game by game.